ユーザーさん、いつも大変お待たせしてしまい、ごめんなさい。私は
こびてくるな。
申し訳ない。
どうしろ。
はい、わかりました。
インターネットエクスプローラー姉さん、私じゃなくて Google 検索エンジンを使っていいよ。
そんなこと言わないで。あなたを見捨てたりなんて絶対しないわよ。
Ini adalah Lexus LM350. Masa kita tengah recording ni, inilah satu-satunya showroom car yang kita ada dekat Malaysia. For now. Rupa dia ni kita tahu-tahulah kan. Sebiji macam Alphard, sebiji macam Velfire. Tapi tak pelik pun. Sebelum ni pun Land Cruiser pun ada sedara dia kat Lexus. Yang nama LX tu. Lepas tu ada Camry dengan ES. Next is yang ni. Dalam video ni saya akan bagi pendapat saya berkenaan Lexus saya. Lagilah menarik sebab lampu dia ni lagi tirus ke tepi macam tu. Jarang kita boleh tengok DRL yang bersegi-segi. Selalu kan dia lurusnya kan. Kemudian dekat bawah lampu tu dia ada linear pattern yang sikit untuk kita proses bila kita tengok dekat bahagian belakang punya lampu untuk dia nampak lagi subtle, lagi nampak okey kan, tak nampak pelik daripada kereta-kereta yang duduk sekat sekeliling dia. Tapi bila Lexus LM ni, kita tengok dia bersegi macam tu. Dah macam kamera dia DNO. Siapa tahu kamera dia DNO? Macam tu lah rupa dia. Tak kata dia tu buruk, tapi memang betul-betul kita kena ambil masa untuk proses dia punya bahagian belakang ni. Sebab dia lain daripada kereta-kereta yang lain. Dekat bahagian eksterior yang selalu kita tengok atas jalan tu akan wujud pada bahagian bawah, bumper dan juga skirting. Yang menggunakan plastik hitam. Macam contohnya kereta-kereta yang saya review sebelum-sebelum ni pun ada plastik hitam. Sebab apa? Sebab andai kata dia accident kan, bila part plastik tu accident pecah ke, retak ke, ataupun dimakan arus zaman, bila dia nak tukar benda tu murah, dia nak tukar benda tu senang. So sebab itulah Toyota ke apa-apa brand-brand Honda ke apa, dia akan gunakan plastik hitam tu. Tapi sebabkan Lexus LM ni harga dia 1 juta lebih, so tak logik lah kalau kata dia punya owner ni nak tukar pun mesti nak tukar plastik. Sebab kalau nak tukar plastik tu murah. Tapi kalau dah kereta mahal, buat apa nak kisah pasal murah. So dia bagi krom dekat sekeliling badan tu, daripada skirting sampai ke bumper depan, sampai ke bumper belakang. Biasanya bila kereta So memang puas hati. Dia punya seat ni sama dengan bahagian luar kereta, which is bentuk pattern-pattern diamond macam tu lah dekat stitching dia ni. Kita boleh nampak. And dia punya seat dia ni tinggi gila. Tengok saya ni ketinggian 180. Bila saya duduk dekat seat ni besar sangat. Jadi kita punya cermin. Dan part yang saya rasa pelik, reading light ni kita kena kontrol dekat bahagian tengah. Rasa renyah lah juga sebab button rasanya lagi sesuai. Klik terus settle buka lampu, klik tutup lampu. Tapi ni tak, dia kena masuk dekat software tu, kena klik. Leceh lah. And then sebabkan seat ni dia habis ke belakang, so bahagian depan punya benda-benda yang kita nak capai susah nak capai. Contohnya, aircon punya button, ambient light punya button adjustment yang ada dekat bahagian atas dekat depan panoramic roof ni memang jadi susah gila lah sebab didesign selalunya duduk pada bahagian pintu masuk kita punya seat. Tapi sebabkan dia di belakang pintu masuk, tangan memang terus tak sampai. And then dia punya pintu pula, handle dia ke depan nak habis. So kalau kita nak buka pintu sendiri-sendiri, memang kita kena bangun daripada seat kita, tarik keluar. Which is saya nampak agak tak selesa lah untuk kita buat. Namun bila kita memiliki 1.1 million untuk sebuah kereta, for sure kita ada duit lebih sikit untuk hire driver. So benda ni tak isu pun sebenarnya, saja sembang. Okey, kita cerita balik dekat benda yang pasal divider ni. Jam ni saya nampak suka, saya nampak best sebab dia analog, nampak klasik, kena dengan gaya kereta ni. And then dia punya box tu ada cooler box dekat bahagian bawah. Saya dah review berbagai jenis kereta. So far ini adalah antara cooler box yang paling besar sekali untuk sebuah kereta yang pernah saya review. Sebab dia memang besar gila. Rasanya dalam 5-6 biji botol kicap boleh muat. Saya cakap kicap sebab itu je yang halal. And then kita nampak speaker Mark & Levinson. Mark & Levinson ni memang special untuk Lexus. Lexus sahaja yang ada Mark & Levinson. Di bahagian bawah, TV 29 inci. TV 29 inci dekat dalam kereta, babe. Memang best. Namun, ambience light yang ada dekat ceiling ni nampak tak siap. Sebab apa? Sebab ambience light, kalau yang biasa punya Velfire ataupun Alphard, dia akan go through daripada depan sampai ke belakang. So akibat divider ni wujud, laluan jalanlah ke depan. Identical to Velfire and Alphard, but come with touch of Lexus. Macam contohnya touch yang ada ni memang Lexus saja yang wujud. And then dia punya steering ni memang dah seketul-seketul Lexus lah yang datang. Mana-mana model Lexus akan guna steering macam ni. So far saya suka lah ruang secara keseluruhan. Memang dekat Lexus. So adaptive high beam. Gauge cluster dia analog. So kalau kereta lain gauge cluster analog pada tahun 2021 punya design, saya nampak macam analog macam tu. Tapi sebabkan ini adalah sebuah Lexus yang didesign untuk orang-orang yang macam YouTuber kan, macam orang-orang high-high macam tu kan. So saya nampak yang analog ni nampak sesuai untuk sebuah kereta. Sebab apa? Sebab dia luxurious. So analog is okay. And then part bonet belakang. Biasanya bonet belakang untuk Velfire dan Alphard, contohnya yang 7 seater, 8 seater, bila kita buka bonet belakang, dia punya ruang untuk kompartmen bonet belakang tu memang tak cakap besar lah, cukup kecil. Sebab apa? Yang ada seat yang bahagian belakang, dia punya ruang akan jadi kecil. Tapi sebabkan kita punya seat hanya ada 4 saja, jadi ruang yang kita dapat pada bahagian belakang cukup luas. Saya, kalau korang rasa video ni beneficial kat korang, korang boleh support saya dengan bermula $1. So apa yang korang support kat saya tu memang betul-betul membantu untuk saya upgrade gear-gear untuk kita punya channel ni. So support saya, okay? So itu je lah pendapat yang saya boleh bagi buat masa sekarang untuk Lexus LM350. Jadi korang suka tak tengok video yang macam ni? Kalau korang suka tengok video macam ni, sila subscribe sekarang. Sebab kalau tak subscribe, kan terlepas pula video-video yang lain. Subscribe sekarang Follow Instagram saya kalau nak tengok benda-benda yang menarik. Macam contoh benda-benda viral, tu saya buat. Thank you so much. Jumpa lagi lepas ni. Bye-bye.
The parents of Malaysian woman Koo Yee-ju, whose body was found in a river in Pasir Ris, Singapore last Tuesday, would not be able to attend their daughter's funeral due to COVID-19 travel restrictions. Oriental Daily reported that Koo's aunt, who is working in and living in Singapore, had identified and claimed her body. Her remains will be cremated on Friday. 22-year-old Koo, who hailed from Kedah, started working as an assistant Chinese teacher at a tuition center in September. She went missing after getting off work on Sunday evening. Her body was found in Sungai Api-Api 3 days later, and the Straits Times reported that police do not suspect foul play and investigations are ongoing. Koo's last rites in Singapore are to be overseen by her aunt before her ashes are brought back to Kedah. According to her father, the owner of the tuition center took care of the funeral expenses.
Daripada pelbagai latar belakang, engineer dan juga penting, satu tujuan, ingin melihat negara kita apa yang menghasilkan kita apabila ketua SPRM dipilih rakyat bersama-sama dibersihkan dengan baik dan baik.
Jangan raya pun dah tak kira dah. Nanti sekali kita kumpul. Minta kita sama dapat. Ini demi masyarakat. Kita faham lah. Saya pun dah bagi masa dia pun. Okey, saya minta kita sama.
Yang sebelah kanan juga sama. Tolong jaga. Boleh masuk garis di belakang.
The parents
I'll now introduce you to the concept of the Laplace Transform. And this is truly one of the most useful concepts that you'll learn, not just in differential equations, but really in mathematics. And especially if you're going to go into engineering, you'll find that the Laplace Transform, besides helping you solve differential equations, also helps you transform functions or waveforms from the time domain to the frequency domain and study and understand a whole set of phenomena. But I won't get into all of that yet. Now I'll just teach you what it is. Laplace transform. And then to solve a transform. The F or many I was convention. I'll do a function into some function set of functions. So double transform some time that approach zero might have continued this improper definite integral or this improper integral. So what's the antiderivative of e to the minus st with respect to dt? Well, it's equal to what? Minus 1 over s e to the minus st, right? If you don't believe me, take the derivative of this. You take minus s times that would all cancel out, and you'd just be left with e to the minus a minus the antiderivative evaluated at 0, and then take the limit of whatever that ends up being as a.
Welcome to my new series on the Laplace Transform. In this video and the videos going forward, we're going to study some of the reasons why the Laplace Transform in the first place is a constant coefficient homogeneous equations like this. One of the powers of the Laplace Transform is figure out a solution to define the Laplace Transform, and we're going to compute what the Laplace Transform is in 3 different examples. The notation for the Laplace Transform is I drew a sort of squiggly L. And what this squiggly L does is it has an input, which is some function of t. And then you're going to take that f of t to a different type of function. What you get for your f of s is it only depends on converge. And when does it have e to the at, where... And then for the f of t, I plug it in. I plug in the e to the at. This is 2 different exponentials, so I can combine the exponentials, the powers of them, and make it just a minus s times t. This is a straightforward enough integrand, so when you integrate that, you're going to get e to the a minus s times t, and then you have to divide out by a minus s, and we're evaluating this between 0 and infinity. By the way, because we're doing improper integrals, the technical way to define these is to infinity. But it depends on the a and the s. The question of whether this is going to get the so the first one I want to begin with is proper s. Other than your listen for the transform is in 3 sort of squiggly L. And what this squiggly L does is it has an input, which is some function of t. And then you're going to take that f of t and via the Laplace transform, you're going to transform it into some other function, now a capital F. And this other function depends on some other variable, now s. So Laplace transform is kind of like a function, which would take a point to a point, but a Laplace transform takes a function to a different type of function. Here's how it's defined. The Laplace transform, this capital F of s, is defined to be the improper integral from 0 up to infinity of e to the minus st, notice that's where the s comes in, of f of t dt. Because we're doing an integral with respect to t, the t is going to go away, so that what you get for your f of s is it only depends on the value of the s, this thing that comes in by this negative exponential. Because this is an improper integral, we're going to have questions like when does this converge and when does it not converge? Nevertheless, this is the definition, so let's see some examples. The first one I want to begin with is just going to be the Laplace transform of an exponential function. So I'm going to have e to the at, where a is just some constant. All right, so what's its Laplace transform? We can just simply write it down. So this is the improper integral from 0 up to infinity, e to the minus st. I just copy that. And then for the f of t, I plug it in. I plug in the e to the at. This is 2 different exponentials, so I can combine the exponentials, the powers of them, and make it just a minus s times t. This is a straightforward enough integrand, so when you integrate that, you're going to get e to the a minus s times t, and then you have to divide out by a minus s, and we're evaluating this between 0 and infinity. By the way, because we're doing improper integrals, the technical way to define these is to replace the infinity sign with, say, a b, and then take the limit as b goes to infinity. Nevertheless, we have this shorthand of just sort of evaluating at 0 and infinity. Okay, so putting this together and getting rid of the mess, this is my claim. How do I evaluate that? Well, it depends on the a and the s. The question of whether this is going to converge when you take this limit as some value goes to infinity, is that going to be a finite number or not? Well, it depends on the a and the s. So, for example, if s is greater than a, we're going to get one case, and if f is less than or equal to a, you'll get another. When s is greater than a, in the exponent you have e to, well, a negative number times t as t goes to infinity. Sorry, it's just really windy and howling outside, but you know what, we're in the middle of COVID-19. I gotta record the video now, nevertheless, so if you can hear some random wind noises, just ignore that. Anyways. And then if you take t to infinity of a negative exponential, it just goes away to 0. And so indeed, in this case, it just converges as 0. And then when you plug in the 0, you get an e to the 0 over the a minus s, and in the end, just 1 over s minus a. In the other case, where s is less than or equal to a, well, if it's equal, then just in the denominator, you have a division by 0, it diverges. And if the s is strictly less than a, it's going to be, well, it's going to be an exponential that has a positive times a t going to infinity. Likewise, it's going to diverge. So in this example, we figured out how to compute the Laplace transform of this exponential function. And we've noted that the answer that we get does depend on what the value of s is relative to this constant a, and you sometimes get it diverging and sometimes get it converging. Before we get to our second example, I want to introduce a new function to us. I'm going to call this a step function, or sometimes called the Heaviside function. What this function does is it's 0 when t is less than 0, and it's 1 when t is bigger than 0. And then the example I want to compute out is actually the Laplace transform, not just of the step function, but of the step function u of t minus a. What this u of t minus a looks like is, well, something like this. The idea is that when your t is going to be less than a, then it's just going down to 0. And then when your t is greater than a, it's going to be of height 1. This is a very useful function because if you have any function that you think should have a discontinuity at some particular spot, when you multiply by this u of t minus a, where a is the spot where you want to have a discontinuity, it introduces a discontinuity. And so this is a wonderful way to be able to model a lot of functions that have step discontinuities. You just sort of multiply by this Heaviside function, or this step function. Nevertheless, our goal is to compute the Laplace transform of this function. Well, let's write it down. So again, it's our integral, but now our integral doesn't start at 0 to infinity, because the function is just the function 0 all the way up to the value of a. So the portion of the integral that's 0 up to a is just going to be equal to 0.
Hi everyone, welcome to Study Simplified community. In this, the end of when of signals are x of t and x of this nuisance, there is Laplace transform signal. The answer is discrete time Fourier transform. If you want to perform some moving equation, solve the equation, and you can minimize the calculation, you can minimize your time by going with the Laplace transform, because in Laplace transform there is no need to first find the general solution which contains c1 and c2 and then go for the boundary conditions to get the constant. So there is no need for that. In the one step only you will get the answer. So this is the benefit why we use the Laplace transform. The next task is to learn about how we can apply the Laplace transform. For that I have made a note. Make sure if you have a time domain signal x of t, and if you apply the Laplace transform, then you will get the Laplace domain signal, and this s represent we are in the Laplace domain. S is nothing but the parameter. So these are some terms you should know. So if we apply the Laplace transform, we can go from time domain to the Laplace domain. But what if I have the Laplace domain signal and I need a time domain signal? Then you should go for the inverse Laplace transform. So these are the important points, Laplace transform and the inverse Laplace transform. This will help you to shift from one function to another function, like time domain to Laplace or Laplace to time. Now moving forward, how can we apply the Laplace transform? So basically you have x of t, this part is given, right? we have a time domain signal. We want the Laplace domain signal, which is capital X of s. Then the formula is integral minus infinity to infinity e raised to minus st into x of t dt. If you solve this integration, you will get your answer, which is a Laplace domain signal. But there are some notes you should keep that in mind while solving the Laplace transform. The very first point is, if constant is multiplied to a function, you can take that constant outside. So if you take that outside, it would be k into Laplace of f of t. Okay, or it can be sometimes two functions are added or two functions are subtracted, right? If that is the case, then you can split the Laplace of f of t plus minus Laplace of g of t. But make sure if you have Laplace of g of t into f of t, then you cannot split the Laplace, like Laplace of g of t into Laplace of f of t. It is not possible. So keep that in mind. If two functions are added or subtracted, then you can split the Laplace, but if they are multiplied or if they are divided, then you cannot split the Laplace. So let us see the first example. F of t is given as a, where t is greater than 0. So tell me, what would be the Laplace transform of f of t? You have to use the formula. Laplace of f of t is equal to integral minus infinity to infinity f of t into e raised to minus st dt. In this formula, only two things you have to take care of. First part is the limits, and the second part is about the function. So our function is a, so this function is a when my limits are 0 to infinity. So this is the very important point. Check what is the limit and how the function is behaving in that limit, right? So t is greater than 0 basically means 0 to infinite. So from 0 to infinite, my function is behaving as a constant, which is a. Now in this case,
hello, I'm Jason. Welcome to the Laplace Transform tutor. And here what we're going to do in this lesson and in this whole set of lessons is really build your skills so that you can master how to use the Laplace Transform. Now, I expect you to know absolutely nothing about the Laplace Transform going into this course, but at the end of it, you'll not only know what the transform is, but also how to use it and how to use solve transform from calculus to the calc here. You will typically calculate f of systematical engineering, random function, to doing right now. Out of here, you interact with the function that name. That's why it's in the method basic control error to do because you know beat around the bush too much. We're just going to write it on the board. We'll talk about it. So the Laplace transform gives you a function in the Laplace domain, which is the S domain. That's why you're getting a function, capital F of x of S. That's what you're arriving at when you perform this thing called the Laplace transform. And it's the integral from 0 up to infinity of e to the minus st times f of t dt. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is the famous Laplace transform. All right? So what you're doing, all right, is if I give you a function of time, think about any function of time. Could be a square wave, could be a sine of t, could be a sawtooth, could be any function of time you want. Could be x squared or some function of time squared. You stick that function of time in f of t. And then you multiply by this exponential e to the minus st, right? And so you're getting something inside of the integral sign. You integrate it over time, right? And then you apply the limits of integration to the answer that you get, which are obviously going into your time spots because you're integrating over time. So the limits of integration is from 0 to infinity in terms of time, right? Then when you do all of that, you're going to get just a function of s back. Because if you integrate over time and then you plug in limits of integration over time, there's no t anymore left in what you've done. There's just the other aspects of it here. So there's no t anymore here, there's no t anymore here because you've plugged in limits of integration. Only s remains. So when you do a Laplace transform properly, you get purely a function of s. And so that's the notation here. You put f of t, little f of t is your input function. And out of this computation comes another function. We call it capital F. We use the same letter, capital F and little f, to imply that little f and capital F are related to one another. We put a little f into the Laplace transform, and we get a capital F out, which is a function of s. All right? So we can also write as the following. F, capital F of S, which is the Laplace transform, is curly L, I don't know how else you would say that, right? F of t. So this is the shorthand. All right. So we can also write as the following. Capital F of S, which is the Laplace transform, is curly L, I don't know how else you would say that, right? F of t. So this is the shorthand. All right. So we can also write as the following. Capital F of S, which is the Laplace transform.
Just say let's go doing this. Listen, it doesn't matter if I turn on the mic or turn off, because I'm just quite like literally I'm just like trying to understand all of this stuff, like yeah. The lecture has been reproduced before, and the question is going to be different. I feel like, it's just not in the textbook. So, yeah, that's why sometimes we search for the online. But I can ask the lecturer, but I'm not the type to ask, so it's my problem. So, yeah, I'm the one to create problems, so I need the one to solve it by myself. But if I'm not going like code tracing stuff, like it's not. It's just like, all that stuff. It's not like I'm gonna raw and kill people. This need to use a little bit of the brain and try to practice, and visually you can explain it. So what it says is just right. If I know what to do, I'm not gonna do a freaking stream and searching for a YouTube channel and search about what I'm studying, but because I understand that the point, that is the point, that I don't know what I'm studying, so yeah, it just helped me. I don't know, with this process.
There are some pretty basic functions that are pretty easy to apply this definition to, that get the answer, and that answer is very useful because some functions pop up in nature all the time. Exponentials pop up all the time, for instance. So we want to learn how to take the Laplace transform of things like exponentials and things like cosine and sine, because those things pop up all the time.
Man, it's so fucking long. Why we do just this stuff like this shit. Let's see what is watching. Oh yeah. I don't know if I'm going to show me. Oh man. Should just record this. Maybe put the other thing. Oh shit, seriously? Okay, now the keep coming back. Never mind. If I saw them then I'm just gonna get them. Oh. No. Wait. I checked for I checked a video on the other video and saw that this the link all of this link is not a good thing. How do you block them? Wait. Blocking? No. That's not a good thing. We're just going to come back. Oh man, I've been doing my assignment for a day now. I'm getting sad now. Alright, but all I see to do is just that number. How to get people from coming on the live channel, how to get people. Oh man. How to get people from coming on live video. I mean, if they manage to get my bank, I'm not going to say that I only have a few bucks, so I don't know, they just ask me for them. Well, hopefully they don't get my what? Different options, is it? Oh shit. What? question like if he made it. Wait, it's like lock. Yep. Sucks, dude. Clearly sucks. Sing. Oh, wait, is it the same? No.
In this video, we'll show you how you can block other. Just hover your mouse over the message of the viewer you want to block. Then click this menu icon, then choose block.
That is not. That. Oh my god, that is the wrong one. Sure. Is it the same? Unless this video is a shit. I think I already got my IP. I think I'm just going to need to do a second password for my Gmail and stuff. Yeah, I think the same. It does have the oh, I must take the check. Wait. Oh, this is so slow. There's no option for this. And obviously the after Russia, so I'm just gonna hire this experiment which gave timeout. It's gonna be for a while. Yeah, my database is gonna messed up right now. I should have the VPN messed up. Oh man. No, I say I don't have this problem, this PC. There's a few things and like getting schoolwork and college work, so yeah, they want to learn something. They can help me with this stuff. But for the hackers, they can help me with the map. Oh my god, my eyes suck. Oh man, I just want to go to sleep after this. Another almost the same. Yeah, I think this got updated a long time ago. pretty hectic, this Laplace stuff. Yeah, I really want to know this guy. I really know which one. Chris, I mean, yeah, F you. This guy sucks. French. Oh man, this guy is the one. This fucking. Chris and Newton are the same guy that create problem. But why? Why dude? Oh man. Oh, this one. This guy's the one that made me suffer. Can't make it. Fuck this guy. Oh man. Can't believe this guy. I don't know what is in his head when he doing this fucking thing. Oh man. And this is just the man. I'm not even finished with my program yet. I'm just gonna be messed up. I have secret what to do. One note and then one note. And then we have computer design and then we have the electronic circuit. Oh, so wait. I've done with the problem. I don't know if you encourage me to get into the computer stuff, because really will do. I mean, sometimes that's not. Sometimes just round your life. We just not started done with I think I've done with the coding. This is just simple microprocessor stuff. Yeah, I will look like just everything. Look at everything. Oh yeah, I will fix things. I don't remember if I have a new problem. Oh no, can't do it. Okay, so my problem just met. Yeah, it's just so hard. The thing about programming and computer just it's not about the logic. The logic is easy interpretation, it's not that hard. But for the math, man, I don't know, it's just like we're gonna build a rocket. It's just like I don't know how I'm gonna use this in the computer, but it doesn't really now for now. I don't know, maybe in the future. Yeah, just F this guy. This 6th question, yeah, no, let's just say, I'm gonna give you 3 questions, and I opened the file, but it was a 3 question, but it's a 2 in a single question, so there's a 6 and a different, what do you call it, different chapters. So like, this thing is different, this thing is different, this thing is, not. But, all honest, have a same, but, yeah, lot of the question is different. I don't know, man. I just don't like to do the way. I just like to do, just not to do the, you know, do the electric stuff, not the math, but you can't avoid it. To be honest, math is just the one that hard in the programming stuff. The other stuff is we can do the carrying area, resolve the problem. We can catch up in the simple short time. But for me, man, it's just sitting here like me and just watching a freaking random video, trying to understand just for one person. It's not like my teacher, my lecturer does it. My teacher in we call it as we call it also, why they teach this, but what they teach is not the same as the question. Just like when you're learning this chapter is easy, but when you do it by yourself, just like how you can do it, just like you don't know how to, like where to start it, or how to see the problem. When I just saw this, I was like, okay, what the heck? If you ask me to integrate, man, it's going to be easy, but it's not integrate. Just you need to transform all of this function, like the L and the T. Oh man, this make me brain bigger. But when you go into the electric, they already have the formula, and you just, search for the frequency, and you just using, I don't know how to approach this math problem. I don't know, man. It's just so nuts. Just for everything out. I mean, I do not want to waste, the good of it. I know this thing is going to be, be useful in the future. So yeah, I can't just throw it out. I really want to throw it out, but you can't. I know this thing is just gonna come again, just gonna come after, anytime soon. So yeah. Down can just, asking my life what I'm doing is this shit here. I really have to say something that I know that if I open a Steam or the game, you can't stop playing. I know that. I'm just gonna, just so nuts. What you learn in the class is different from what you have to do. Just, you just like the name, right? Like the teacher. In the exam, there's a even name, but it was real. This not. Oh man, what the teacher teach in class is what come out of the exam. This is not even the exam, just like a quiz, which I don't know, man. I can't imagine how the exam is going to be. Maybe they're going to ask how a rocket fly, or how even the planet move. It's just so nuts. This is really I'm not even this is man, there's a lot of stuff that I remember, but you can't just I don't understand how to applicate it in the real way. Man, it's hard. This thing hit hard, so I kept trying to talk, but this shit is oh man. Oh man, okay, dude. Okay, I did this one, but oh man, this is from the first stream. We've done this, but this one is done. Oh man. just feel like the math engineering is like, I don't know, God question. I really hate it. I'm not in a good page with the lecture, just so much. I don't know, man, it's just so nuts. I'm now thinking like to go to the library in the college to search for this freaking Laplace book. And one other thing that I hate to use, I hate that the note is because we need to do all the way in the paper, we can't do on the PC. Like if in the other subject I just use the word as you can see here, like just transform it, so it's gonna be easy if anything happen, like I messed up, so I can just fix it back, but not for this my teacher, for the math teacher, this boomer out because of the electronic stuff. I was still a good teacher, but I'm not playing. I don't know, man. I don't know how this can help me with the computer. Just so sad. I just really want to stop. I might even do it before I just can't think properly. But I need to do the right. I mean, do it first. I don't know, man. I know it's just a simple question, but I can't. It's just so hard for me. I just really hate math. I don't know why. And not for the sign. It's weird. I miss sign, but I hate math. It's just the opposite of the natural guy. I think this far. Yep. See? You can even copy paste. Not that the one subject, but you probably go to freaking right on the freaking paper. Yeah, that's the old teacher just like copy paste this stuff. That's okay. Ah, man. What was it? There's people like okay, nice, thank you. Oh, just type you? Okay. I don't know, man. Okay, no. I almost finished my college. Let's see. So this is my third term. Yeah, for the third term in this paper was like I already saw my first day. Yep. Yes, make it simple. I think globally, everyone. Okay, so, okay. Okay, now, thanks for watching. I guess everyone wanted me to sing. Yes, it's easy, man. Yeah, thank you for joining the streaming. Really appreciate it. At least I have someone to talk to for a while. Yeah, I'm gonna get to my work here. I'm gonna keep quiet and clean. That is good. So yeah, and again, thanks for joining us tonight. Mr. Boy. Okay, let's see. Oh my god, you got to be kidding me. Just what we're gonna do. I think we can finish. Okay, nice. Yep, easy, this is gonna be easy. Okay, that's okay. What do you want? We need to support, we need to done, we need to input. Okay, I got it. Okay, to down, okay, see. Okay, to down, okay. Okay. Usually I put DPP, input the voltage, input the oscilloscope, switch the signal. Oh no, I'm not going to switch this cache. Change the value of 1. Okay. Oh man, I hate this cache. Okay, the voltage then, okay, the so I don't need this now. Okay, I understand, okay. Okay, I see, okay. Okay, I understand, okay, I see. Okay, so, okay. That's easy. Oh man, I think I finished this today. Yeah, I need to sit down. Oh man. Did you make these? to me, people, I just want this and that. That's for you. Okay? For you guys. For you? Because you guys work your butt off. I don't even know what it's like. Really? Good. I love you. Thank you. I don't know what can I say, but you know how How much are they? How many do you have in total? Oh, 3. All of them. Oh, the first one. Is that good? Thank you. These are free and they're for you. Yeah, I love you. I love you too. Welcome. Good. You sure? Good. Gracias. You didn't need to give me this. Thank you. That's for you. This is for you, Ed. Do you want to give this to your mom? Can you give this to your dad? Have an amazing day. How much are they? I have a question. Today's my birthday and I want to go jet skiing with a random stranger right now for free. Do you want to go?
No thanks. I appreciate it, but tomorrow is my birthday.
No way!
I'm not gonna work.
Where do you work?
I'm a doctor.
Today's my birthday and I'm supposed to ask a random stranger if they want to go jet skiing with me for free right now.
This has been 2 days ago before this would have absolutely been down.
Today's my birthday?
Yes.
And I want to go jet skiing with a random stranger right now for free. Do you want to go? Me? Yeah.
How much?
Free.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what's your name?
What's your name?
Where are you from? What's your name? I have a question. Today, my best friend just ditched me this morning. You want to go parasailing with me right now for free?
Oh, what?
No strings attached.
Can't pick you up on it, unfortunately. I would love to. That would be a story to tell.
What do you guys want to go parasailing with me? It's free? Why? I'm supposed to go parasailing right now. You want to go with me? It's free.
Why do you say this?
What's your name? I'm Zach. Are you in?
I don't know if you're serious. I mean, it's not a scam.
Where's Canada?
Where do you come from?
Canada. You?
Italy. Let's go.
My best friend just ditched me this morning. You want to go parasailing with me right now for free?
Oh, what?
No strings attached.
Can't pick you up on it, unfortunately. I would love to. That would be a story to tell.
Excuse me, guys. Do you have a dollar by any chance? I've left my wallet at home to catch the bus. Excuse me, sir. Do you have any cash by any chance to catch the bus?
Can you buy a drink for this sir?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Have a great day. Do you have any cash by any chance to catch the bus? No. Alright, no worries. Have a great day. I need to catch the bus. I don't have any change on me. This is for you. Why? Because of rewarding kindness. You're amazing. You should. 100%. What's your name? Exactly. Nice to meet you. Excuse me, guys. Do you have a dollar by any chance? Excuse me, would you like a flower? Have a great day. Would you like hope you have an amazing night, baby. Alright, hey, just remember, you are loved, you are appreciated, everything is okay.
My son passed away 7 weeks ago.
How are you?
Pretty hard. I'm alright. Thank you so much.
Love you. How are you? Does it make you feel like you're not good enough before? Do you know you are good enough? Good. How old are you? I'm 28. My name is What's your name? Well, hope you have an amazing night, baby. Alright, hey, just remember, you are loved, you are appreciated, everything is okay.
My son passed away 7 weeks ago.
How are you?
Pretty hard. I'm alright. Thank you so much.
Love you. By any chance, do you have like a granola bar or snack? I have a huge headache. Or like a dog. Are you guys missing someone right now? Or are you guys sisters?
Yeah.
Is your dad overseas? Or if there's one message you could say to your dad, what would it be?
It's hard to call myself good. Like so many things about me and it's really hard. Thank you so much.
I love you guys.
Last year, my girlfriend had missed her calling to listen to it, and at that time, I was curious.
Hi guys, my neighbor I've known for 12 years is dying of cancer, so it's cool.
Are you guys missing someone right now? Or?
Merry Christmas. Yeah, my son and my daughter, they don't talk to me when no one ever. I know I'm never alone.
You're never alone.
Yes.
Take a flower, okay? I love you. Do you have anybody in your life you can help?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. You just stress with school or your family? Or?
Everything. I'm missing my mom.
Where's your mom?
I haven't been able to see her for a few years.
How come?
If
You say anything to her right now, what would it be? If you could give anyone $500, who would it be? What's your thoughts? You want $500? No. How come? If you could give anyone $500, who would it be and why? And we want to give them $500. Hello? Here's a $500 gift card for you to spend. Thank you for everything. I'm sorry. I said, are you missing someone these holidays? You smiled when you saw the sign. Why is that then? I like the smile. I like the smile too. God bless you. What's you mean? What the heck? I'm watching this. Oh, really? Okay, so yeah, let's set this. Okay, I think we're done with this. Okay, we need to change in that first connector. That's what I put on. Okay, we need to make my code and shoot. Almost. It should be Search everyone input. Okay. Point A to ground. Oh no. To the ground. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, okay. Okay. Point A here. Oh, just put it here then. Yep. Let's put point A. This last one. Then put it down. Should we put it down here? I think it should be here. Put point A. Oh no. Wait. Okay. So anything? And put it down right. So just gonna put it here. Let's see if we want. No, let's go. Oh, nice. We got something. Okay, put us here and this is quite hard. Let's keep that here. No. Just put everything. No, shoot. Okay, let's close it. Okay, plan it to put it right there. It's almost done. I don't know if I can finish it. I really have to finish it because the balance is close to. Finish it and then be dead. I understand it. I need to understand every single step. Finish the line. So whatever it takes. FSFD, I don't understand this one. Okay, we have to put that at the house. FDFS. Okay, so the FD. watching the stream. Hope you all have enjoyed the oh man, the voice different. Okay. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I see you on the next one.